What is up, my ducks and drakes? Welcome to the Crawdad Lake. Today I am reading part 16 through of When at First You Don't Succeed, a standard-sized fanfiction by ElliottGreen333 on Wattpad. The link to the book and the author are down in the description. I encourage you to check it out. And without further ado, let us begin with part 16, Virgil. The credits rolled as the second movie of the day ended. I looked up at Roman, seeing his head moving closer down to his chest, as if he was being pulled, his lips slightly parted in the air, his breathing becoming calm and at peace. Finally, Roman was asleep. I reached out for the remote to turn the TV off, watching the room fill up with darkness, sending chills up my spine. I looked again at Roman, still peacefully dreaming away. I smirked, leaning closer to him and kissing his cheek. While I am grateful that he wants to protect me from the wrath and the others, he's tiring himself out. They're not after me. They're after him. I stood up. The couch let out a creak. I started to make my way up the stairs, stopping for a second to see how Thomas was doing. He was still contentedly sleeping on his floor. None of us, let alone Roman, used that ability on Thomas. However, we can all knock Thomas out like that, but depending on who does it, it affects Thomas's dreams. Right now, I can only imagine what Disney-filled wonderland Thomas was dancing in. I continued to climb back upstairs. I opened the bedroom door. It was dark in there, but I don't mind. I let my eyes adjust before being able to map out the room. Moving over to the dresser, I grabbed a yellow-covered book and slipped it out of my room, shutting the door. I felt a lump in my chest and a fear bubbling in my throat. I looked around, but I didn't see anyone there. My eyes went wide when I rushed back down the stairs, huffing and puffing. I stopped at the bottom of the stairs, my eyes glued onto the couch. Roman was still there, sleeping peacefully. I let out a big breath. I need to keep an eye on him. I went back upstairs, stopping in front of Logan's room. I sucked in air, letting it out slowly. I have to do this. I have to wake them up. I almost knocked out Roman's door before remembering the situation, heading inside. I left the door wide open so I could hear any sounds coming from downstairs. My head shifted over to Logan's body. He was still breathing, and his face still seemed tense, even while sleeping. I sat at the foot of his bed. "Don't worry, Logan," I muttered, opening the book in my cold hands titled Deceit. "I'll find a way to fix this." I spent about 5 minutes of looking in the book for anything remotely close to talking about Deceit's venom. I was checking on Roman every 30 seconds, so that wasn't helping my search either. I was beginning to get frustrated. I flipped to a random page, skimming it lightly, but stopped when I found something. Deceit has venom similar to a snake, and venom cannot do almost anything Deceit needs to. However, one can always go back on their words. To reverse venom effects, Deceit must wake them up himself. Any other way to do is to travel deep into the mind of Deceit's host and reactivate their personality trait. However, this method has proven to delete sides permanently if not done correctly. I almost dropped the book on the ground at that last part. I could kill off a side forever unless I get Deceit to wake them up for me. My breath started to quicken. I can't do that. I can't risk messing up losing one of them forever. Thomas wouldn't be the same. They'd all hate me. Thomas would. Roman would. Roman. My legs carried me from Logan's bed out of his room. I closed the door on the way out. I heard another door click, and I turned my head as I soon heard it. Roman's door moved slightly. Maybe he woke up. I was shaking. I shouldn't have left Roman alone. I know I shouldn't have. But if I had any chance of waking one of them up, I had to take it. I moved slowly and carefully towards Roman's room, my heart beating directly in my ears. I touched my damp hand in the knob of the red door, and was about to open it when I saw Roman walk out of my room in the corner of my eye. "There you are, Virg," he said calmly. I ran into him, hugging him tightly. "Whoa, it's okay. I'm fine. I'm right here." He lifted my chin to meet his face. I nodded, not being able to release my gaze from his brown eyes. I blushed as he giggled to himself. I know. How we could wake up the others, I said, trying to sound hopeful. Roman's eyes lit up, and we picked up and twirled around me. Virgil, that's amazing. How? Well, first we have to travel into Thomas's mind, further than we've ever been. But it might erase Patton and Logan forever. Roman's smile dropped. He set me down and became puzzled, pondering my statement. Finally, he grabbed my hands and looked at me. I think if anyone could do that, we could do it. I smiled wildly before we kissed. We pulled apart, both of us smiling and panting. I think I'll go wake up Thomas. I think he should be fine while we're gone. I nodded and let him travel down the stairs. I kept smiling even though he was gone. That's just the type of person Roman is. He has a lasting effect, even after he's left the room. My heart was fluttering. I love him. I'm so glad we're going to be able to figure this out together. Roman's door opened fully, and I could barely process the pair of arms grabbing me and pulling me inside. The room was hardly as bright as it usually was, but I didn't need to see clearly to understand what was happening. The door slammed, and I was pushed into the arms of a third person. Wrath. He smiled at me, one brown eye, and one half light, one half dark blue. They were looking into mine. I was squirming, trying to free myself, but not doing so well. I saw Remus give a nod to Deceit, who then shifted his appearance to look like mine. I was about to scream when I had a hand pass over my mouth. My eyes became leaking tears. Go. Wrath hummed. Deceit nodded, and I watched him open and close the door. Remus howled the laughter, watching their plan swing into motion. I was screaming to Wrath's hand, begging him to let me go. Wrath looked down at me again. Cry all you want, Virgil. This is only the beginning. Part 17. Roman. As collecting the DVDs and putting them back on my shelves. I don't exactly remember when I fell asleep, but I don't remember changing DVDs. After that, I walked back over to Thomas in the kitchen. He had a limp smile on his face, and I could help but smile too. If it were up to me, he could live in that dream world forever, but dreams are only dreams. The waking world is where dreams become reality. I pressed my two fingers together, ready to snap. Thomas awoke when I heard the door slam upstairs. My head whipped over, my eyebrow arched. What was Virgil doing up there? I walked back upstairs, kind of hesitant, but ready for anything. I summoned my sword, but kept it hidden behind me. Never know what could happen up here. That got me thinking about Virgil again. How broken he looked when he hugged me after not having the courage to look inside my room to see whether or not I was attacked. I don't want to think about it. I fully came up the stairs and saw Virgil looking around the hallway nervously. Virgil, what was that? He seemed shocked when he turned around to see me, but quickly whipped around shock from his face and replaced it with fear. I saw his eyes drift around to where my sword was, so I summoned it away, hoping he didn't see it and get scared by it. I don't know, he said, clearing his throat like something was caught in it. I patted his back, trying to help, but he only swatted my hand away. He looked at me, reading my expression before curling in on himself. Sorry, I'm fine, though, he said. I wrapped my hand in his and watched him smile meekly at me. We should probably get packing for our little adventure, huh? I asked. Huh? He asked, giving me a confused look. I returned his look, but shook his head, a little chuckle. Oh, yeah, we should. Hey, could you help me pack? My smile warmed. Of course, I said. I led him back into the room and sat down on his bed. I grabbed a small backpack from the closet and started filling it with things I know he'd want. I grabbed a small sketchbook and a pencil with some extra hoodies, and I finally grabbing his eyeshadow. I set a bag down in front of him and watched him dig through it. He pulled things out, examining the items and shrugging before putting them back in the backpack. He gave me a smile and a thumbs up. He's adorable. I took a seat next to him, watching him fly up as I sat down next to him on the bed. He laughed, like a hearty, genuine laugh. He barely ever does that. I left along with him to make it seem as though I saw nothing was wrong. We finally stopped laughing. Virgil was looking deeply into my eyes, and I started staring back into his. Thank you for packing for me. You're welcome, darling. I'm just so glad that we're going to be able to save Patton and Logan. His eyes widened, and I could see beads of sweat starting to drip down his face. Oh, yeah, me too. He nervously spat out. He chuckled oddly. Is he having second thoughts about all this? He grabbed my hands and pulled me onto my feet. He then pulled me into a deep kiss. Of course, kissed back, but I was very confused. Virgil was having mood swings like a crazy person. First nervous, then love? How does that make any sense? Virgil started biting at my bottom lip, wanting me to open my mouth. I did a little bit. I never thought Virgil would become so strong like this. But then something happened. I felt Virgil bite hard on my bottom lip. I opened my eyes. I didn't know I had them closed, and I saw who was looking at me. One eye brown, one eye yellow. I let out a scream through the kiss. I can't believe it. Deceit tricked me. But if he's Deceit, where the hell is Virgil? Deceit's teeth removed themselves from my lip, and all of a sudden, I felt super dizzy. I could see his fangs poking out with a smirk as he shifted back into his normal form. I fell backwards onto the ground, gripping the carpet underneath me, trying to stop the spinning. Black dots were filling my vision. Deceit was leaning over me with a sick and twisted smile. My eyes rolled back into my head, and I finally shut my eyes. I felt Deceit pick me up. I tried to open my eyes again, but I couldn't. I tried to move again. I couldn't. I tried to do anything, but I couldn't. Then, as if a switch was clicked, my mind plummeted into a deadly sleep. Part 18. Virgil. He left about 15 minutes ago. Wrath was still holding me back, his hand covering my mouth. Remus has been punching me in the gut nonstop, waiting for Deceit's return. My throat was aching from all the screaming I did. My face was wet with tears. I felt sick. This was the end. I let myself get captured, which led to Roman, who's about to get bitten by Deceit. This is all my fault. I should have tried to be positive, though. Roman is strong, and he knows how to fight. Even if Deceit looks like me, he should catch on, shouldn't he? The door swung open, and there stood Deceit with Roman in his arms. Wrath had dropped me onto my hands and knees, skipping over Deceit with glee. Remus was laughing at his sleeping brother. I can't believe it. Roman lost. Deceit put Roman flat on his bed, his pounding feet moving in my direction. He grabbed my hood, and I tried to fight back. I had to get to Roman. I was too tired and weak to keep fighting, but I could tell that Deceit was enjoying my efforts to try. Wrath loomed over Roman's body, skinning him head to toe. He placed his hand over Roman's face, and I had a front row seat, watching as Wrath sucked Roman's aura away. No, stop! I yelled, bursting into tears again. Deceit kicked me in the back, making me cough. Wrath turned back around, his one eye now a mix of red along with the dark and light blue. The chains on my wrist snapped off. He rubbed his wrists before looking down at me. Well, never thought it would come to this, eh? He croaked, making his way over to Roman's room, looking at all of Roman's stuff. Your friends thought they'd get rid of me after all those years, cast someone out into the darkness, and they vanish. Well, no one stays happy forever. Everyone gets angry. Not to mention, I can't help but think that they never told you about me. You had to figure it out yourself, didn't you? He stopped in front of Roman again, glancing at him, laughing at him, then turned his head to talk to me. Roman, the strongest and bravest of the bunch. His one weakness was his downfall, he said, pointing at me. Then there was Logan, the brightest light bulb in the room. His knowledge could not contain his true feelings. Isn't that right? I grew more angry as he spat out the others' names like he was nothing. And finally, Patton, the happiest man you could ever know. He laughed to himself. You know, I thought Patton would be the hardest to kill. Stop! I shouted. They're not dead. Stop talking like they are. You must know what death means. It's simple. They're never coming back, which means they're dead. Wrath screamed in my face. I felt more hot tears sliding down my face. I wouldn't believe they're dead. Although, Wrath continued, you could bring them back. I looked at him, confused yet curious. Virgil, I have a choice for you to make. You have two options. I was all ears. One, we leave you here and let you try to wake the others up on your own whilst we go take over Thomas. Or two, you join us in taking over Thomas and we will wake up your friends. My heart almost stopped. He can't be serious, can he? It can't be that simple. But then again, what real choice do I have? I could erase one of them if I do this myself. I took in a deep breath, letting it out slowly. I tilted my head towards Wrath, who, I could tell, was waiting not so patiently for my answer. I will go with you, I said in one long breath. Remus was jumping up and down on his tippy toes, and Deceit hummed in approval. Good boy, Wrath said with a wide-mouthed grin. He snapped his fingers, and I could feel rope tightly wrap around my wrists, along with metal muzzle appearing on my face. It was starting to draw blood. It was so tight. I let a muffled mumble in pain, not being able to open my mouth very wide. Remus laughed at my discomfort, coming closer to me, taking my slimy finger down my face, gathering some blood on his finger. He stuck his finger to his lips, tasting the blood. I probably would have poked in my mouth, wasn't being held together. Yum. Full of fear, Remus cackled, stepping back. Wrath pointed to Deceit. Bring the lump of shit. We have a host to corrupt. Deceit nodded and grabbed my hood, dragging out the door. With Wrath leading and Remus and Deceit right behind him, I was getting choked more and more by the hood. I felt my face turning blue, and the air was getting harder to grasp. My eyes were fluttering closed, but not before I heard a slam closed door by Remus. But that was the last thing I remember. Part 19. Remus. The journey into Thomas's deep subconscious wasn't as long as I thought. Perhaps Wrath's shortcuts were cracked. It only took us 3 days instead of 12. Deceit and I switched off, dragging Virgil, who slept most of the time. Something about needing air and being suffocated by his hoodie. What a wimp. I could tell we were getting closer as the parts of Thomas's mind are full of color were dull and grim. Roman's part, Patton's part, and Logan's part all shut down. It made a sick smile grow my face. I can't help it. I'm twisted by nature. Not only that, I could see Deceit's, Virgil, and Wrath, and my part glowing brightly. We stopped in front of the subconscious. Wrath turned back to Deceit, who was holding Virgil by the hood still. Deceit shook him awake, and roughly pulled him to his feet. You will help me open Thomas's subconscious. Only together the light sides can open it. He laughed as he said that. His red and light dark blue eyes shined as he did. Together they faced the subconscious. Virgil extended his hand, which began to glow a dark purple. Wrath did the same, his hand glowing the 3 colors of the other light sides, the subconscious responding glowing brightly. Wrath smirked with such a power rush. We're not done, Wrath said, moving further into the mind, with the 3 of us at his heels. We came to the dark and deep cliff side. We all kept our distance, but Wrath took a daring step closer, looking down and breathing in the surrounding air. Don't you love the scent of death? He questioned. He was looking into the pit we called limbo. In their memories, personally, anything gets ripped apart and forgotten forever. He turned back to Deceit and I, glaring at us as if we were toddlers that did something wrong. Let's proceed with the rest of the plan. I nodded in Wrath and then at Deceit. Virgil's legs were shaking. Wrath paced back and forth, putting his hands behind him. I'm sure you're wondering why we didn't just bite you and put you in the room like your friends, The answer is simple, really. Wrath put his hands together in front of his chest. Only his fingers were touching. Not only did we need you for our little plan, but as a human, Thomas can lose his sense of creativity over time. He could lose his sense of morality over time. And he could certainly lose his sense of logic over time. However, anxiety always comes back around. Why is that, Virgil? Wrath's face was pretty much touching Virgil's. He was shaking even more, but calmed down as Wrath moved back. I'll tell you why, because that's how disorders work. They come back, even when you don't want them. He spat at Virgil. Virgil took small steps back, becoming smaller, curling into himself. He backed to Deceit, who grabbed him by the shoulders, his fangs exposed. Virgil was struggling to get out of Deceit's grip. He was proving to be weak. Do it, Wrath barked. Deceit nodded and opened his mouth, sinking his fangs deep into Virgil's neck. Virgil was gasping for air, but as time went on, I could tell he was fighting the pull of sleep from Deceit's venom. Deceit let him go, and he weakly fell into his hands. His eyes were closed, and his body was limp. It worked! I cheered. Wrath rolled his eyes at my childish nature. What can I say? I just love it when a plan comes together. I picked Virgil up and walked closer towards the limbo, my hands growing more shaky as I came closer. I extended my arm so Virgil was dangling over it. In a weird way, I felt bad about what I was doing. This was going to be the end for Virgil. I suddenly felt the two-hand roughly push against my back, my body leaning forward, almost falling into limbo with Virgil in my hands. But I quickly regained my balance. I turned around to greet the person who tried to kill me. It almost came to no surprise to see Wrath standing angrily behind me. Deceit was looking back and forth, from Wrath to me. What the hell was that about? I questioned. Isn't it obvious? I don't know. I do not need you two anymore. Virgil opened the subconscious so I can corrupt Thomas. You two are only setbacks now. Wrath barked. We might have been setbacks. We're setbacks who fight back, Deceit said, stepping over to me. Deceit held out his fingers together and snapped his fingers. Wrath's eyes widened before getting filled with anger. He shoved me to the side and tried to push Deceit into limbo, but Deceit fell back. I set Virgil gently on the ground and stood back up, rage boiling my blood. I summoned my mace and joined the fight. Wrath wasn't fighting the both of us off very well. He backed up slowly before bumping into Virgil, who was fully awake and ready to fight with us. He wiped the corner of his mouth, clearing his mouth of any lingering puke. Virgil backed Wrath onto the edge of limo. He was barely hanging on. Give it up, Wrath, Virgil demanded. Wrath smiled with sweat pouring down his face. Why would I do that? Wrath pointed his fingers like guns towards Virgil. Bang. Wrath whispered. Virgil clutched his stomach, screaming in pain before collapsing on the ground with blood foaming around him. Wrath was grabbing my shoulders and swung me into limbo. I couldn't believe it. I heard Deceit yell my name as I fell further into the darkness. I could feel my very being getting ripped apart. It was a peaceful death, but very scary nonetheless. I closed my eyes and I fell deeper inside, feeling everything I knew, everything I love, everything I am, getting ripped apart like a birthday present. What a way to die. Part 21. Part 20. Episode 1, Patton. My ears were ringing like sirens, my head was pounding deeply, and my body was stiff. What happened? I opened my eyes a small bit, letting my pupils adjust before opening them further. My room looked like it was repairing itself. The walls were going from white to light blue like it usually was. The posters that were peeling and sliding off my walls were putting themselves back into place. My desk was reforming and fixing itself and completely smashed to brand new. Wait, my desk? What happened to my desk? I sat up slowly, getting a feeling back in my bones. I rubbed the back of my neck, feeling 2 small bumps on my neck. I rolled my neck, listening to almost every therapeutic crack and popping. I stretched out my arms and wiggled my legs. I started to feel better. I swung my feet over the bed and began standing up. My legs felt like jelly. I ended up falling backwards on my bed, giggling to myself. I stood back up, more luck this time. I didn't move at first, letting the blood flow through me. I felt like I had been hibernated, or like beauty sleeping for thousands of years. Why was that? Then it hit me. Memories falling like bricks, the weight of all of it knocking me back onto my bed. Virgil, dreamscape, hit over the head, book for Logan, deceit, Remus, wrath. They. I ran to my bathroom and threw up, the venom from deceit leaving me. I wiped my mouth and let stray tears fall freely down my face. How long have I been asleep? I pulled out my phone out of my pocket. The screen was smashed, but it still seemed to work. I turned it on and saw the date. It had been about 2 weeks. I almost threw up again. 2 whole weeks without Thomas having a sense of morality? How did he even cope? I pulled myself out of the bathroom's floor, feeling dizzy from throwing up. I stepped in my mirror above my sink. My neck was bruised, and I had a black eye, along with dark bangs hanging over my eyes. The curls in my hair had fallen flat, and my glasses were cracked along the rims. I went to feel the bruise on my neck, but pulled back as touching it caused pain. Using the walls, I guided myself into my main bedroom. The rooms looked healthier, which was good for me. It meant I was doing better than I was. I looked at my desk, so curious as to why it was smashed when I woke up. I touched my fingers to it, feeling the soft, finished glaze of my fingertips. I took a breath and smiled. It's good to be alive. My feet brushed against something and went flying across the room. I followed my eyes before actually moving closer to it. Bending down to pick it up, I saw a book I was supposed to give to Logan. Logan! I rushed towards my door and opened it wide. I looked up and down the halls, but didn't see anything. I noticed Roman and Logan's doors were wide open. I paused for a minute to listen. I could hear voices coming from the living room. My heart was beating like a drum as I marched quickly down the stairs. When I got to the bottom, I had 2 pairs of eyes looking at me. Roman and Logan's. Without a word from anybody, I rushed into Logan, giving him a big hug and crying as I felt his touch again. I could hear small sobs from Logan, too. He lifted my chin and looked at me. He began a big band-aid on his temple. That made me worried about him. I was too happy to see him be in his arms again. We both smiled and leaned in for a long kiss. I feel like I've waited forever for this. I missed you so much, I said as we pulled apart. I missed you too, Logan replied. Rima was also smiling. He looked tired, as if he had only been heavily crying before this. That got me thinking. Where's Virgil? Our attention suddenly shifted to the control panel. It was all gray except for Virgil's area, which is bright purple and blinking. I reached out to it, but Logan pulled me back. Roman was pressing buttons on the side of the panel, but nothing was happening. Finally, something popped onto the screen. Please note, creativity, logic, and morality functions are rebooting, and the anxiety function is in danger of being deleted. Part 21, Episode 2, Logan. My head felt like 1,000 people were hitting it with hammers. I could feel the harsh light of the room through my shut eyelids, but I didn't want to open my eyes. My head hurt way too much. I lifted my hand up to my head, but I felt something coming down my head, something that was dried out now. Using my other hand, I hoisted myself into a sitting position, feeling my bed make a tired creak under me. I couldn't feel my glasses on my face, which was further proven when I opened my eyes and could hardly see. The room wasn't as bright as I had once thought. The blinds were closed, but the light was pouring through them. I could vaguely see things in my room revert to normal. The white walls were returning to a light gray, and the dent in my wall was buffering out. The newly formed hole in my desk was being patched back to normal. Foggy memories started flooding back to me of what happened after I returned to my room. I couldn't put anything together. It was like a puzzle with only a third of the pieces. I lazily lifted my feet up and over onto the ground, sitting up, but quickly falling onto my hands and knees. My world was spinning, and it was clear that my legs were still not ready to travel. Pushing myself back until I leaned against my bed frame, I took a couple breaths and let out my legs regain feeling. Despite walking being a challenge, I felt like I slept for an eternity. It didn't really feel like I was sleeping, though, more like a dreamless nightmare. That's when the fog lifted. My head yanked up and my eyes widened. The dreamscape, Virgil thought. I yelled at him. Shut down. Deceit? Remus? Wrath? I jumped up from the floor and puked into the toilet. In a weird way, I felt so much better after doing that, feeling the old and still venom leaving my body. I sat down on the bedroom floor, using a nearby towel to wipe my mouth. I was panting, but I hardly cared. I was so glad to have woken up. I weakly and slowly began to stand, making eye contact with myself in the mirror. I moved closer to the mirror, looking like a train wreck. My head had been cracked open by a temple of the hair in total mess. I grabbed another towel and got it wet, dabbing my cracked head, cleaning the blood away, and then put a big Band-Aid on it. My neck caught my eye. Two little dots placed not too far apart. My eyes widened, and I took a step back. That's where Deceit bit me. I don't remember much after Remus smashed my head against the desk. I think I blacked out from there. I swallowed the thick lump in my throat. My legs moved me back into the bedroom. My brain wasn't fully awake, but it was working enough. I saw my glasses lying on the ground near the door. I bent down and picked them up. There was a big crack down the left lens, but it didn't bother me that much. I looked at the door and stood back up, seeing a dark blue hues draw closer to me. I twisted and grabbed the nod fully as it might fall off. Looking out of the hallway, I saw Roman's door open. Oh my god. My friends. Roman. Virgil. Patton. I ran downstairs, a smile creeping into my face. How could I forget about my friends? I reached the ground floor and I looked over. Well, I didn't see Patton. Roman was looking at me. I let out a breath as I moved closer to him. He met me in the middle and wrapped me in a much-needed hug. We pulled apart quickly, blushing. We both have boyfriends, but I don't think they care. I haven't seen anyone in at least a week, and I don't know when Roman has gotten. I'm so glad you're okay, I said between a breath. Same to you, he replied. What happened? I don't know. I fell asleep with Virgil after you went to your room. He started saying you were in danger, so I went up to your room, and you were like Patton, he explained. That seemed to tie together what I was remembering, too. Roma was still smiling at me. I think he was happy that we were awake. I noticed the two dots on the inside of his lips. Deceit bit you on the lips? I questioned. Kinda. He shifted form to appear as Virgil and tricked me. I was about to ask what happened to Virgil and where he was, but I was stopped by a certain light blue figure bouncing happily down the stairs. We made eye contact and wordlessly ran to each other. I wrapped in each other's arms. We both began to cry quietly. I lifted up his chin, both of us smiling at the look of each other. I pulled him into a long and heavenly kiss. I miss you so much, Patton said as we pulled apart, his smile warming my heart. I missed you too, I softly spoke. Patton looked over at Roman, who gave a weak smile, obviously missing Virgil. Where's Virgil? Patton asked. Roman opened his mouth to speak, but our eyes all were caught on the control panel. Stepping towards it, we could only see Virgil's panel was working, while ours was gray. Virgil's area was blinking. Patton cautiously reached over to touch it, but I pulled back his hand. Never know how or what it could do to him. The way the panel looked reminded me a lot of the panel in the dreamscape after it broke. The panel didn't look broken, though. Something popped up and screamed, and a lot of our heads turned towards it. Please note, creativity, logic, and morality functions are rebooting, and anxiety function is in danger of being deleted. Part 20, Episode 3, Roman. Light was fading into my closed eyelids. My back was slightly sore, like I just slept for years on end. I opened my eyes a little bit. I can faintly see my room healing itself. It didn't look as bad as Logan and Patton's rooms did. My walls had faded to a light pink and were returning to its usual deep royal red. The blinds to my window were reacting themselves to the windows, and my room was tidying up. I swung my legs over my bed, holding my head, which was pounding now that I was sitting up. With my feet touching the soft carpeted floor, I stood up, extending the arms. I stretched my arms up and over my head and back down. I took a deep breath in and realized it. My mind was foggy with memories that didn't fully line up in my head, as if they were my memories at all. I took a step forwards. I stumbled a little bit, as if I hadn't walked in a while. I looked down confusingly at my feet. What was going on? Whilst looking down, I noticed a little red spot in the carpet. What the hell? I bent down to try to rub it off, only to find it still was kind of wet. Suddenly I remembered. The dreamscape. Rathsback. Patton. Logan and Virgil. Nightmares. Movies. Protecting Virgil. A kiss. Deceit. Dizziness. Virgil! I sprinted into my bathroom and crouched down in front of my toilet, releasing whatever was in my stomach back out. I could feel the thick venom leave my system. I felt lighter in a strange way. I stood up, turning around to face the mirror behind me. My hair was a mess. My face was bright red from standing up suddenly. I had no major damage to my face or body, but from what I remember, I opened my mouth and I looked at my bottom lip. There were 2 little dots. I almost threw up again. I can't believe Deceit fooled me. I knew Virgil was acting odd. I should have known. I feel so stupid. I brushed my fingers through my hair. I lost. Virgil couldn't already have been gone by the time Deceit bit me. I felt for my phone in my pocket, pulling it out to check the date. It has been 4 days. Virgil isn't gone. I have to tell that to myself. I have to stay positive and have a clear mindset. If I don't find Virgil, will get more difficult. I walked into my bedroom and went straight for the door, turning the knob quickly. I rushed downstairs, my heart beating. I looked over into the kitchen. Thomas was still in the kitchen, fully asleep. I smiled to myself, laughing slightly for leaving him like that. I snapped my fingers and flicked my wrist down. I sunk out of the mind palace. He didn't need to be here as long as he was, but I couldn't really help that. I heard more feet tap their way downstairs. I looked and smiled at the sight before me. He let out a sigh of relief and walked closer to me. I walked to him again, opening my arms. We hugged joyfully. I know what he said to Virgil, but he was worried about Patton, much like I am now about Virgil. Besides, he hasn't had any human contact for a week. We quickly pulled apart. I'm so glad you're okay, he said with a sigh. Same to you, I said. What happened? He asked. I swallowed and placed the story together in my head, replaying all of I knew to him. I nodded, fully listening to him. While I finished the story, I was smiling at Logan still. I don't really know why. I think I was just happy he was okay. I could see him looking at my lips. Does he bit you on the lips? He asked, and my eyebrows raised. Kinda. He shifted form and appeared as Virgil and tricked me. I answered him. He looked like he was going to ask a follow-up question, but then Patton came bumbling down the stairs. Logan and Patton locked eyes and ran to each other. I stopped paying attention. It reminded me too much of Virgil. I already missed him. Not to mention, I still feel like a failure to him. I also kissed Deceit, but I don't want to talk about that. He looked at me, and I gave a weak smile in return. His smile dropped as he looked around. Where's Virgil? I was about to answer when the control panel caught my attention. We approached it. I could only see Virgil's part was working. I was pressing buttons on my own, now dead panel, but nothing was happening. Suddenly, I noticed and popped up on my screen. I pulled my hand back quietly, but my heart dropped as I read the notice. Please note, creativity, logic, and morality functions are rebooting, and the anxiety function is in danger of being deleted. Thank you guys so much for listening today. We will continue the rest of the story till the end next week. If you have any suggestions for stories, or you'd like to submit your own story, let me know in the comments below. If you head to my Discord, I'm actually having a Wattpad Read Aloud contest where you could write a story following the prompt that I had in my Discord server, and you'd be able to submit it in a contest, and maybe if you win, I'd read it on the show. I don't know how this works. This is a little late for me to bring be bringing this up though, considering the fact that everything's due the end of June. Doodle-a-doo. So June 30th is the day that all this is due, the contest stuff. But even if you're not going for the contest, I would very much appreciate you guys heading over to my Discord and doing the Discordy things. Because Discord is dope, and I kind of like it. And it's fun just, chatting with all you guys there. So, just thank you all for listening. I really enjoy doing these. If I didn't, I don't know why I'd make a full series about 50 episodes long doing this. But I guess until next time, do your best.